In this lesson, we'll work on the eyelid deformations. So in this scene file, the final deformations for the head. I've added a little bit more movement to the upper jaw just to finish up the rest. So what I'll do is just go in and remove the animation. I'll go to frame 25 first and delete the key there before deleting the key on 0. That way, just in case we haven't frozen any transforms, we can always get back to the skin pose. Then you can head over to your attributes manager, select your bone object, and just make sure that everything has been frozen. You can see that we have a little bit of animation still here on these rotate channels. So to remove the animation entirely, with them all selected, you can just go ahead and use Control Shift and left click. Now no animation data is left on those channels. So the same thing goes for the jaw. You can do the same thing for that. If you've animated the head bone, you can go ahead and remove animation here. I'll go ahead and freeze transforms. Just kind of cleaning a few of these up. Great. All right, so let's go ahead and now add some weight to the eyelids. It's a good idea to first hide the eyeballs. So let's take care of that. We'll go to the Layers Manager and I'll unlock the face layer. We'll go ahead and grab the eye geometry and we'll create a temp layer. So we'll choose File, New Layer from Object Selection. Go ahead and hide those. There are a few other pieces that we'll need to hide. So we'll just right click and choose Add Objects to Layer. Alright, great. So now, if we were to go ahead and lock our head layer, we'll go in and add some animation. Let's go to the Attributes Manager. We'll go ahead and freeze transforms on the upper and lower lids. Remember, we just need to worry about tweaking one side, and then I'll show you how to fix the orientation issue, and it will hardly take any time to adjust that. So let's make sure auto key is enabled. We'll go to frame 20, and with the left upper lid selected, we'll go ahead and just rotate it down. And then on frame 40, we can go ahead and rotate it back up. Great. Now, for the lower lid, we'll start from 40, so let's go ahead and set a keyframe. And we'll go to 60 and rotate it down. If you'd like to rotate it back up, we could always copy this key on 40. I'll just hold down Control and drag to frame 80. Now that will rotate it back up. Alright, so we're now ready to go in and start to fix our weights. Let's go ahead and unlock the face, grab our weight tool. Checking the symmetry settings, we're going to go ahead and set this to name now. And in the name fields, we'll search for _L_. So we can paint on the right side with _R_. We need to get that descriptive to make sure we paint to the right objects. Okay, great. So now it's just a matter of finding the upper lid on the left side. Let's go ahead and set our strength to 100%. We'll go in and set our mode to absolute. And I'll start by subtracting weight first on the lower lid. So I'll just hold down Control and take care of those few points. Alright, great. Now we can go in and start to fill in some points here. Careful not to add any weight behind the head. Just take your time and make sure you're painting this just right. Okay, so I'll go ahead and take care of this next row. The row after. And what you'll see when we start to scrub is that already the eyelid is looking great. So now we could start to smooth this out, and when we do, we'll smooth between not only the lower lid, but also the upper jawbone. So let's go ahead and set our strength to, let's say, something very small, let's say about 5%. We'll set our mode back to add. And as we start to scrub now, we could start to add that weight. So there isn't much to do at all. See, we have a point that's very hard to get to, but we know how to work around that. Let's go back to polygon mode. And with our select tool, we'll grab these two polygons here. And we'll choose select and hide selected. Great. So now if we were to go back to our model tool, go back to our weight tool, it's a lot easier to get in and paint those points. So I'll go ahead and scrub again. Start to fix these. Great. Now the points above what we've just painted, we can go ahead and use just one click, just so there's a little bit of a pull. Great. So that's looking very nice. I might go back and set this to 100% and back to absolute to paint this next point here on the upper lid. All right. So now we might just go to the upper jaw and start by blocking in with a weight of 50%. Just see how that looks. Beautiful. So already the upper lid looks fantastic. Let's go ahead and check out the other side. Again, we might use that same value of 50%. Fantastic. We want to be careful not to get to any points that we don't want painted. All right, great. So that looks wonderful. We can go ahead and bring back the polygons we've hidden. Just going back to poly mode and choosing unhide all. Let's go back to our model tool. Beautiful stuff. And if we were to take a look at the opposite side, let's go back to our layer manager, grab the upper lid. Even though the orientation is off, you can see the weights are there. All right, so that is fantastic. All right, let's go back and now take care of the lower lid. So we need to scrub from 40 on. Let's go back to our weight tool. We'll select the left lower lid. We can start to block in weight. Let's set our strength to 100%. We're still in absolute mode. We'll get right to work. Just want to make sure that the right bone is selected. There we go. Go to the very corner here and do the same thing. Just kind of fill that in. Okay. So that should look nice. To test this out, we'll just scrub through. So there's the upper lid, there's the lower lid. I'd almost like to change the animation of the lower lid just so it rotates up so we can get an idea of how the eye will blink. So if we were to go to frame 60, let's go ahead and grab that joint and just rotate it up on that frame just to change the direction. All right. So now you can go ahead and turn off auto key if you like. I think that will be a little bit easier for us to paint as well. And I won't spend too much time on this at all because we should have an idea already of how to take care of these spots. So you can see, all right, we have the lower lid now coming up. So let's go ahead and set our strength to 50% and then paint to the upper jaw. And already that's looking fantastic. I'll go back and set this to 100% simply because there's a gap here that we don't want to exclude. So I'll go ahead and paint that to a full weight of 100% to the lower lid, and then I'll set it back to 50% to add weight back to the upper jaw to fix that up. All right, let's go ahead and take care of the opposite corner by putting in that same value of 50%. All right, let's see how that looks. Very nice. I'll go back to the lower jaw, go back to frame 60, and I'll go ahead and rotate this up even higher so we have an idea of how it'll look when it's at an extreme. See, by doing that, now we know, okay, we might need to pull down the corners a bit more by weighting back to the upper jaw again. It's not a big deal at all. So I might go ahead and use a value of about 70% to do that. Great, and that looks perfect. Now you can see that we have a little bit of pulling on the upper lid. So we know how to adjust that. Let's set our strength to 100% and we'll control click to remove the weight there. Oh, and actually, before doing that, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that it is the lower lid we have selected when we remove weight. There we go. All right, so now when we start to scrub, no longer is that influence there. All right, let's go ahead and finish up. We'll set our strength to 5%, set our mode back to add, and we'll start to paint a few spots here underneath just to smooth this out a bit. Great. And then on these points underneath, I'll just go ahead and click once so there's a little bit of a pull. And that's all there is to it. Okay, so now at this point, we need to go ahead and take care of the orientation issue. So it's just a matter of selecting the head, going to our weight tag to find our bone objects. Let's make sure we expand the joint list. We'll find those joints on the right side. Again, I'm making sure we're on our skin pose when we do that, frame 0. And then we'll go to the lower right lid and the upper right lid. Let's go ahead and remove those, right-clicking and choosing remove. It's getting cut off, but it's the third to last choice. Now, we can freely go in and adjust our joint object. So it's not the roots that are giving us this issue. If we were to go to View and choose Scroll to First Active and select the root is just fine. It's just the bone that needs to be corrected. So I'll just go in, go to the Rotate tool, and start to rotate in the bank axis to fix this so that the x-axis is pointed vertically up with no slant. That looks great. So once we are pleased with its orientation, we can just go in and freeze the joint and do the same thing for the lower joint. So again, we'll rotate this so that X is pointed up. And now we can go ahead and freeze this joint. And now we can go ahead and add those back to our weight tag. So if we were to select our head mesh, just to find the tag faster, we can go ahead and grab it, lock this down, scroll back up to find those joint objects. There's the upper lid and there is the lower lid. Making sure we grab the right objects, we'll go ahead and add them back to our list. And now watch this. If we were to go in and select our weights again, I'll go back to the weight tool and grab the left upper lid. We can go ahead and copy its weight. We could then select its mirrored object. Okay, so the upper right joint. We'll choose replace. Notice how the weight has the bones color. All right, so all we need to now do is go ahead and flip this across so that Cinema 4D reads this properly, and then we'll go ahead and copy the weight here to store that, and then choose normalize to keep the weights in that 0 to 100% range. It's as simple as that. Let's do the same thing for the lower lid. We'll go ahead and grab that bone object, grab its weight, go ahead and copy it, go to its opposite side, replace, flip, copy, normalize. So in no time at all, if we were to take a look at this, we can go in and grab our joint objects, and the weights are just fine. Beautiful. All right, so guess what? Now that the eyelids have been tweaked, we're ready to work on our head and neck controls. Let's go ahead and first bring back our eyes. Very important. We'll go back to our temp layer, choose select from layer, so we can grab those objects and add them back to our face layer. I'll go back to the temp layer to delete it, and we should be good to go now. All right, so that finishes up our work on the eyelids, and in the next lesson we can start to build control objects.